Hello, everyone. I'm Claudia Bester. I'm the Director of Public Programs here at the Hammer Museum. Thank you so much for your patience as we worked out some technical issues that just arose. I need to let you know that we cannot show the newest, highest res version of this film because an essential piece of equipment in our projection booth broke at 6:30 p.m. tonight. Everything was totally perfect until then, but we had a mad scramble to find a way to show the film and avoid having to cancel. We're going to see a MP4 version, so the color and sound are not as perfect as the film that the filmmakers delivered to the Hammer Museum. Also, some of the subtitles are incorrect, or, a little off. So I really want to offer my very sincere apologies to the filmmakers and to you in the audience. We really strive for excellence and to show every film 100% perfectly in the format that the artists made it, and we were not able to deliver today. That being said, you're still going to see an excellent film tonight. Perhaps if I hadn't even said these things, you might not even notice these issues. So, but I really am sorry, and thank you. I know we're starting 47 minutes late, and I really appreciate your patience. All that being said, I'm delighted to welcome you all to tonight's screening of the documentary Mulheres Radicais, or in English, Radical Women. I want to thank the Consulate General of Brazil here in Los Angeles for partnering with us tonight for tonight's screening. And I want to welcome the Consul General of Brazil, Ambassador Fátima Ishitoni, who is here with us tonight. Welcome, Ambassador. So before we begin, I want to give you a little background on the film and the project. In 2017, the Hammer Museum presented a landmark exhibition called Radical Women, Latin American Art 1960 to 1985, curated by Cecilia Fajardo-Hill and Andrea Junta. The exhibition presented the work of 120 women artists and collectives active in Latin America and the United States during a key period in Latin American history and in the development of contemporary art. The exhibition was the first survey of radical and feminist art practices in Latin America and among Latina artists in the United States, and it included artists from 15 countries. For women artists in Latin America, this time period, 1960 to 1985, was a time of both repression and liberation. Most countries in the region were ruled by dictatorships or in civil wars at some point during these years. The artists featured in Radical Women were often living in turbulent environments marked by authoritarianism, imprisonment, exile, torture, violence, and censorship. But this period also saw the emergence of new sensibilities. While few of the Latin American women artists self-identified as feminists, their work and their lives often manifested a vision of the female at odds with the deeply rooted patriarchal values and repressive regimes in the region. Central to the diverse artworks in Radical Women is the notion of the political body, which artists represented in many ways, including self-portraits, the relationship between the body and landscape, the mapping of the body, performance, and the power of words. In case you'd like to take an even deeper dive after viewing tonight's film, the Hammer created an extensive digital archive with lots of information and images about each of the artists in the show. So the exhibition that started here traveled to New York, where it was exhibited at the Brooklyn Museum, and then to Sao Paulo, Brazil, in the summer of 2018. When it traveled to Brazil, two amazing filmmakers, Isabel de Luca and Isabel Nascimento Silva, were very taken with it and decided to make this film. The documentary we're going to see tonight features 11 of the participating artists who met to discuss their lives and artistic practices. The film was released in Brazil last October, and tonight is its US premiere. Or maybe it's not really the premiere because it's not the final film. So you get to have another premiere. I want to acknowledge the Hammer's Radical Women Leadership Committee and the Friends of Radical Women who enthusiastically and generously supported the Hammer's Radical Women exhibition. Some of them are here with us tonight: Susan Bay Nimoy, Leslie McMorrow, Kathleen Rosenblum, and Mark Sandelson. And I also want to give them an extra shout out for enthusiastically, generously, and consciously championing many women artists and curators for many, many years. Thank you. I'm very pleased to say that the co-directors, Isabel de Luca and Isabel Nascimento Silva, and the co-curator of the Hammer's Radical Women exhibition, Cecilia Fajardo-Hill, are here with us tonight. And after the screening, they'll have a post-screening discussion and take some audience questions. And after that, we invite you to join us again in the lobby for coffee, tea, and cookies, and we can have a chance to chat further about the film and the exhibition. So now please enjoy Radical Women. Please join me in welcoming co-directors Isabel de Luca and Isabel Nascimento Silva, and the co-curator of Hammer's Radical Women exhibition, Cecilia Fajardo-Hill.
Thank you. Thank you so much for still being here after having started so late and everything. I mean, for me, seeing the movie, I've seen it once before, but every time I feel very touched because I have to say that because I personally worked for many years on the exhibition. For me, the most wonderful thing was to meet the women. And this is not something that comes to life in an exhibition, because in an exhibition you're looking at art. You may imagine what the life may have been of an artist behind the work, but this is something else. This is the real thing, the real women. So Isabel, I mean, both of them are called Isabel, as you know, but Isabel de Luca, at one point after the exhibition opened at the Hammer Museum, I received a call from Isabel or an email and said, look, I'm interested in making a movie. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I would like to ask you to begin the conversation, how did you decide to make a movie on radical women? Also because you didn't see the first iteration of the exhibition here, but then you already made the decision.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you all for coming and for staying. Thanks to the Hammer Museum
Yes.
for the opportunity of showing this film here, which was the first stop of this exhibition. It was where Radical Women found its first audience, and it's the premiere of the movie in America too. So it's truly an honor and a joy to be here. So yes, I am very good friends with Leonora de Barros, who is one of the artists from the exhibition and the movie. And when she was selected to the exhibition, we were like talking almost every day because it was such a big deal. And when she came back from LA, where the exhibition opened at the Hammer, we went out for dinner in São Paulo, and she was like crying on the table, literally saying that you have no idea how it was to meet so many women artists that were working at the same time. I haven't never heard of these women before. And the works are so powerful, and we were getting to know each other and showing each other our works. And I said, aha, we're gonna do this movie. That's a movie. She's like, how? I'm like, the exhibition is going to New York, and what I wanted, it was so clear. I want you to interview each other. So Leonora, the movie starts with you. Who do you want to talk to? And she said, Sylvia Palacios Whitman, of course. And okay. And then, Sylvia, who would you like to spend 2 hours chatting to? So we did not interview them. They picked each other through affections or interests or, so this, am I talking too much? I talk so much. It's a so yeah, so they got to choose whoever they would speak to, and we were just like looking and like, yeah. So that was the first idea, and we just did it. So I invited Belle to direct because we are partners. We co-founded Hysteria, which is a creative label inside Conspiração, which is a production company in Brazil. We are focused in female narratives
and more.
And it was not our first project together, and it was not the last, because after I invited her to direct my other movie, which is about, well, we'll get to it later, but yeah, so here we are again, the same names and same projects.
Yeah, so Isabel, the Nascimento. I would love to hear how, because it's interesting. In the case, Isabel was directly influenced by the Leonora de Barros, enthusiasm, and you're very close to art. You're interested in art, so you come from a slightly different perspective. So I feel that you've balanced each other very, very much. But I would like to know also how you became involved, aside from the fact that Isabel invited you.
Okay, first of all, thank you all for coming here. And sorry about the projection. Maybe things was a little bit darker and close-ups are almost in the shadow.
And the subtitles, oh my God, to me, it's like...
But that gives me a weird idea that maybe we should do the interviews in PB and show their works in color. Would be a nicer movie. And we met together in Conspiração, that our producer in Brazil, and we co-founded Hysteria. Hysteria now is a creative label in Brazil, inside Conspiracy, inside Conspiração. And our goal is to expand the female participation in audiovisual market in Brazil and have women in the center of the narratives, as you can see it. Great. As you see it in documentary. And so the important thing, I think that we were very, very nice to do it, is that we put a spotlight. The film aims to put a spotlight on these artists, and that's was the main goal that from the beginning. So it was very nice to talk to work with Isabel a lot, and to meet you, Cecilia. And I just want to thanks to the Brazilian consulate too, that makes that opportunity to us to come here, and the Hammer Museum. And Claudia was very, very emotional speech. And this is very important for us because Hammer is the heart of the best expositions that I ever saw in my life. And be able to show the movie here is such a privilege. And because this is the place that all started. And this has a lot of energy to come here.
No, I agree. The Hammer Museum basically made the exhibition happen in the first place, and it
Yes.
was very meaningful because Connie Butler worked here at the time. She's a feminist curator, and then Anne Philbin is a feminist woman, and so forth. So somehow, it needed to have a powerhouse filled with powerful women, and Claudia Bester actually accepted to do the screening. So there is always so many women behind Ambition situation. I wanted to take an opportunity. In the audience is Isabel Castro, who is one of the radical women in the exhibition. I would like you
Where
to...
are you, Isabel?
Right
Where
here.
yeah.
It's the first time she sees the movie. So
Yes.
glad to have you here.
I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, it's so nice to see Isabel, and I think it's very interesting to think of her because when we were researching for the exhibition, Isabel, I didn't never find any work of hers here in LA, but when I went to Centro de la Imagen in Mexico and I was researching photography, I found her work. And I thought, wow, who is this extraordinary woman? And I started to look because nobody could tell me who it was. Eventually, after doing quite a lot of research, we actually managed to meet Isabel. And like Isabel, who is such an important artist, so many of them, came to light. They've always been there. And so that's why it's so interesting that you have highlighted this story. And one of the things that for me is interesting about this, I feel that this is not entirely a documentary. I think this is not a really fair name to give it. If you think of how the movie begins with Lenora basically reciting this poem behind this black mask and unravels at the end as she's unraveling the face. So because the central theme of the Radical Women was a political body, I feel that you really kind of highlighted this, and also because documentaries normally are highly scripted, and they're like, there is a thing and there is a way of asking questions, but you gave a lot of freedom, a lot of agency to the women that participated in the movie and how they decide to talk and so forth. So I'm interested in understanding this, how you decided to go about this way, to.
I think the thing that, first of all, that we didn't want to do with talking heads. That's something that I don't believe in documentaries anymore. I always say that I have a conversation with the characters, with the female artists. We have a conversation. We don't do that kind of interviews. And I think it was a big challenge in the editing room that we both spent like 1 year doing that. And I think the soundtrack, I think the design, I think the way that we try to agitate the movie, and the thing that Isabel said at the first time, that she chooses that one artist is going to choose another artist, and that makes a way to avoid the talking head process that we are so used to do it and to see it in journalism. And it's very nice, but I think we are in a moment of documentaries that we are trying to explore new new languages and new ways to talk the same story, and in different ways. So it's very nice to hear this from you, but it was a tough work.
But I think the most important thing was really letting them free to
Talk.
first be with whoever they want to and talk about whatever they want to. Sylvia really surprised us when she said about her son, because we knew Sylvia Palacios Whitman completely disappeared for 30 years. We didn't know why. Nobody did. And then when she said, "Oh, maybe I should tell you,"
But the
it
way
all
we
happened.
agitate this
And
moment,
it's all about affection, because
Yes.
they picked whoever they felt affection for, and they said whatever they wanted to say. There was no documentaries trying to, push
Yes.
some question
Have
or
the best
anything, and
the best quote.
and I think
But
the most
the thing about documentary, I think editing is more editing is to almost that important as filmmaking, as shooting. So the way that we discussed it about how we going to tell that Silva Palacios Whitman lost her son was very important. So this is one of this is one of my favorite sequences in the movie, and because she says in a very practical way. She doesn't make that a big deal in the scene. So we were surprised when she said something. When we were on set, we looked at it to each other and said, "Oh gosh." And then when we started editing, I think is very, very, very touchable and very catchy. The moment that she does the performance, the Green Hands performance nowadays in the Brooklyn Bridge, and now that performance shows us so much about that pain, of that women pain, and that's the moment for me that the movie mixes. It's not just a movie about art; it's a movie about the life of these artists. So for me, that I have two children is a punch. It's like a punch, that scene, that sequence. And in that moment, we changed the narrative. It's like before that moment, we talk about the reality about being a woman artist. And it's not that easy.
It's always very intertwined. I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things that I was, because I remember, because you called me, it was still in 2017, but the movie was launched in 2023. So it took nearly as long as Radical Women. Radical Women took, from the moment it was really thought for the first time, 2010, but whatever. So it was at least 7 years to more time. But this took nearly as long. And for me, it's interesting to see that you kind of persevered despite of, because I remember you came to Brooklyn and you were like a small team of people interviewing whoever women were at the Brooklyn Museum, and then we met in Sao Paulo. But Sao Paulo, Brooklyn Museum was in 2018 in the spring, and Sao Paulo was in the summer. But after that, 5 years have passed. So I would like to understand a little bit the process and how it took so long, and be thankful for.
Well, first, it was so fast because when I decided, we said, let's do the movie, when is the exhibition going to the Brooklyn Museum? And it's going to be like 3 months away or so. So we had 3 months to prepare everything, which is like 2 months maybe, yeah. It was like nothing. And so we went to New York, myself, Belle, and Maria, the producer, and we were literally carrying stuff, from the van and doing everything, the three of us. That was it. And but we had
It was
to
the
do
beginning
it.
of our series.
Yes.
So
And thankfully, Estrelita Brodsky lent us the space, another space where we used for the setting for the interviews. And then we came back to Brazil, and a couple of months later, the show went to Pinacoteca, and we continued because we had the interviews to continue. And so we filmed there, and the movie was ready in 5 months, which is like, not ready, was filmed. But then the thing is, in Brazil, we had a new government from 2019 until 2022 who made it very difficult for cultural projects to happen. So that was the main problem, because the funds, the public funds for you to get. So it was a mess, but it all went good. And
yeah, it was very. It was.
so it
it
took
was
a little
diff-
longer. We filmed it, but we couldn't edit. We couldn't.
We don't have the money to edit it.
Also, sorry about Cecilia knows it. I'm sure you know. We have more than 400 artworks displayed in the movie, and to get to be able to get authorizations for all that it's a nightmare. But it was so important for us to have them, so we had to go after the photographers, the videographers, whoever. It was another night, but we were doing this in parallel. But yeah.
But you did a nice job. That's so funny because in 2018, I was a director and didn't want to produce, and now I'm a producer. And then all these years we spent like trying to put the film out. I wanted to say something like put the film in foot.
Put the film together.
Put the film together, yes, because was very difficult because we didn't have the money to edit it. We didn't have the money to launch. We didn't have the money. I think the government they frozen the money for 5 years, so it was really tough to do it.
And it was already an approved project, but still, we
Yes,
couldn't
but
get the money.
the thing is when they saw the name Radical Women, Mulheres Radicais, we didn't have a chance.
That was probably it.
That was when Bolsonaro wins the election. I remember calling Isabel and calling everybody in Conspiração, and I told him, guys, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's funny all the because there is so many parallels between the lives of the women in the movies and everything. And I remember that Radical Women opened just after Trump was elected, and the Women's March had just happened, and there was a whole thing about the defense of women's rights. So by the time Radical Women happened, it was a movie that people were willing to see as something that it was relevant and was speaking to them. And in Brazil, something very similar happened because in 2018 was already becoming difficult with Bolsonaro and everything. And I think Pinacoteca, which is a very important museum in Brazil, also made a point to make a movie in a specific moment in time, and it resonated in Brazil in even a different way, because in Brazil I felt that the exhibition, it was a natural idea that this was about the life of women and the life of Latin America. In the US, we needed to explain a little bit more because the idea was a little bit more foreign, and also the idea of having Latinas and Chicanas that, it's not equivalent to the type of oppression that you may have in a dictatorship, but Latinas have been oppressed, like in the work that Isabel does, that it just shows that, you know, there was forced sterilization and there was, you know, sex trafficking and so forth. So that there is a commonality there. I wanted to ask you, as it's getting late, I'm going to ask you one last question, and then I will open it to you if you want to have, if you have a questions for the Isabels, which is, when we did it, Radical Women, we never called it an exhibition about feminist art. Though at heart, we always felt that the struggles that these women had was very much about something that is feminist, which is about the defense of something that has to do with your wife and your rights as a woman, but also with society. But is a term that was very much not a term that most of the women understood as theirs. They did not consider themselves feminists, but we used to say with Andrea that this, for us, was a feminist project because it's about the sort of support of other women. So I'm asking you the same, because you're Brazilian women, and this is a term that is always so debated. Even here today, to say I'm a feminist is like complicated, but also you did a movie where you have a whole female crew and you're working already, you have a company that works promoting women. So is this a feminist? You know, how can we think of this project?
Well, I think that shedding light on women that reached such amazing work, artistically excellence, despite all odds, and giving them agency to talk for themselves. And in a moment where they're being like recognized and celebrated for the first time after so many decades of so hard, I think it's a feminist gesture. And thinking more broadly, I've did 3 documentaries. I've created and produced 3 documentaries in my life, and the 3 of them are about women, average 80 years old. They're all, so I think paying homage and tribute to the women that came before me is very important to me. And that's a feminist gesture. And thinking now, it's like, that's all I do.
I, I just want to add something that I think there's a lot of types of feminism. So we have to be careful about this word. But you have a line in the movie that I love so much that is in the beginning of the movie, actually, that you said that the kind of experimentation that these women did with photography, with video art, with putting their own bodies, their own sexuality, their pains into their works, certainly open a new chapter in art history. And this has a crucial importance for women's rights. And that's what I think. But we have to understand that there's a lot of kind of feminism, so be careful about this.
Yeah, no, I get it. But so, but I've opened it to you if you have any questions for the Isabels
And you?
or me about radical women. We welcome you to ask.
Somebody's coming. Somebody's coming with the microphone to you. Right? Shannon? Oh, yeah, there it is. Thank you.
It is a great idea you have. You just started a discussion on women. But what are the other women? You just did a small portion of a larger project that can be done on women around the world. The women around the world. You just started with one paragraph of what you really need to show who are the women. The women around the world. The women make the world better. And this is not there. I'm not happy with the film at all. It's very superficial. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there is very few women compared to the rest, but remember that this is a movie based on a project that included 120 women in a very specific period of time between 60 and 85. around the idea that these women had contributed through the idea of the political body to transforming contemporary art, to being experimental. So this movie, what it does, it had an opportunity to work with a small group of women within the exhibition that was possible to work with, to be able to reveal something about the lives and the reasons for doing the art they did. It's a very small drop in the bucket, as you say. It's a very specific exhibition, movie, but ultimately, for me particularly, if they're highlighting 12 artists and Radical Women highlighted 125, I'm happy because every single one of them is valuable. Is never pretending to represent all the women in the world. It's just saying these women are magnificent and wonderful. So I don't believe personally in the possibility when we did Radical Women, if people will say, yeah, what about this and this and that? Of course. It's not an encyclopedic exhibition. There's hundreds and hundreds of women deserving to be here. In our original checklist, we had 400 artists. There's no museum in the world that can produce an exhibition of 400 artists. And it would have been so I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, if there is something, there is a space, there are few voices highlighted, I'm welcoming that without pretending that that is telling you all the truth.
Yeah, and even if we wanted to make a movie with 127 women artists on the show, it's impossible. It's a 1-hour movie. You can't have 127 women in depth. And the importance was to have them, give them agency, let them talk. Otherwise, they would have like, it's nothing, you know. You have to make choices, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a small amount, but it shows so much, I think. I mean.
Infinity is coming.
Was it, you know, for you?
I think a good way of. I think, well, one of the ways to look at something is like when you go to an exhibition or, you know, you read a biography of an artist or watch a film of this caliber, that you're really taking a very small slice of that person's life. What they were thinking at the time and how it was contextualized within the social movement of the period. Well, yes, for the period, yes. And, you know, I've moved on and I'm doing other projects and things like that. But for that particular time, it was very important. And I think that it really accentuates, you know, what was what the driving force of these artists to do and the compelling, the compelling thing to do what they had to do. And but mind you, is that this is an art. These are artworks and performances and things like that you know you can't hang up in your living room. you can't you know hang up in a museum. I mean, these are special moments in time that you know that are there for people to examine and to you know really revere that period of time, good, bad, indifferent, you know, painful, whether it be, you know, it's just a very small slice of someone's life.
And another thing, oh, he left? Okay, I will say something. No, I think the good thing about going to a movie and that you don't have to like it, you know? It's not for him, maybe. You don't have to like it, and I think he expressed himself in a very gross and rude way. But this is about art. You don't have to like it. You can like it or you cannot like it. That's fine. But he could express himself in a nicer way. And he could understand that maybe he doesn't understand about the movie business. That in 1 hour, it's impossible to show the whole world of women.
All the women have now
In
is
the
1 hour to
world,
tell the whole
yes.
struggles of the woman. You make a movie, you have to.
Maybe he doesn't
You can
understand about
accelerate the time.
filmmaking.
Now you fix
Yeah.
it. You want to make a movie about
You wanna
women? Now
make
you
a-
fix the problem.
the
Yeah.
women in the
You have 1
world.
hour. Go.
Maybe artificial intelligence can do something for him. I don't know.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I would agree that it's never enough. But there is a little catch-22 situation here, because are women not enough? You know, is this not an enough project, or women deserve more? And I think there's kind of a blurry line in there, because of course, I mean, we need more. We need more radical women. We need more movie like this. We need more exhibition. We need support more women. I mean, we know that the statistic of representation of women in the art world continues to be 10 to 30%. That it does not represent the real number of women, brilliant women doing art today. So we know that we need to do it. But then what exists, let's not put it down.
Listen, to me, this the, it's what you did is so important, like to putting together all these women and showing everybody that there really was a chapter of art history that has not been told. And when you look at these women and you see that there was really it's like a school of art in Latin America happening by that time, but nobody knew because the lack of information was like huge. So nobody got to know about this. And yet, this amazing effort you did went to 3 places, 3 museums, and that was it. So I'm super happy to have done it, because we need to reach larger audiences. You know, this type of effort has to be. So this movie's here. Everybody can see it now. So yeah. And you see, they invented so many things. You know, when you see Vitória Cabeças showing the piece of the divorce, like it's like Sophie Calle, 30 years later, she did something like that. You know, Cecilia Fajardo-Hill, when she was working at the Concon Beach, it's land art. You know, it wasn't the California men on the 8 who invented land art. It was Cecilia Fajardo-Hill at Concon Beach. And
Claudia
even
Anduja,
the other day, I was reading
anonymous.
you know, Katie Hassel, she wrote the book of the Story of Art Without Men. And she points out, and I'm not going to remember the name of the ready-made was not Marcel Duchamp, was a woman.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Baroness.
Yeah, exactly.
Baron-
So, I mean, it's so important to shed light to those things, you know, because you know, we have a project of transforming it in a
we
series
have a
because we have
project.
so much.
Yes, we have a
So
project
each
like this.
chapter about each artist, I'm going to ask for your permission, Isabel, very soon.
Thank you. I just wanted to congratulate you, and I thought you don't have to justify to someone that didn't like what your work. And I think you've done an excellent work and shedding light in the work of those women. And you explain it's it's about Latin American women in a certain period. And like you say, we need more representation of women, of Latinx. And I think what you did was amazing. And I think, I really think that, I mean, I was totally unaware of all this movement and what's going on, and I'm from Mexico. And I think this is really important and it's relevant. It's relevant today. So thank you.
I would just like to, first of all, thank you for your films and your excellent work. And I just want to bring to everyone's attention that right now at the Getty Center, there's a revelatory exhibition of Camille
Claudel.
Claudel, that's right, who was an apprentice with Rodin, and she did fantastic work. You can go there and see this while you're visiting our city. And this is a woman who really disappeared to history. And it was through a documentary about her life that I saw maybe 20 years ago, something like that, that was what an incredible story, and so personal and so real. And so I came tonight because I know virtually nothing about Latin American women artists, and I learned something, And if your film just cracks open the door a little bit to bring some light in to this subject, you know, this is just one facet of women's stories. So I applaud what you've done. You did a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I, while she walks, can I just point out something that is very important too, is that the exhibition, not the movie, was so game changer, such a game changer for so many women. Like you see Cecilia Vicunha, today she's one of the most important women artists in the world, period. And lots of the artists that had never sold one work, they are like in museum collections all of a sudden. And even the crew, like I know Marcela Guerreiro was one of the curators working with Cecilia. She was just starting, she was really young, and she was like, she's at the Whitney Museum, like an important curator at the Whitney Museum. So you see that it's such an important project that, you know, changed careers, changed lives, really, because it's just about shedding light.
And not shedding light on, we are in Hysteria and Conspiração, we are shedding light about in women in audiovisual market. And this is very important too, because in Brazil, we didn't have women in leadership positions. And now I think we have a great job doing that. And in this movie and almost in all the Conspiração productions, we have women in leadership positions. And like I said, leadership positions is directors, photographer, director of photography, director of art, and something that 10 years ago was only do it for men's, and women were the assistants. And now this changes a lot in the cinema in Brazil. And this is very important because this movie was shot in 2018 and was our first project. And since Radical Women, we will be able to do like more 20 projects, 20 or 25 projects in the same way. We have women in leadership positions, and 95% of the crew, it's also women. And this is very important to audiovisual market in Brazil also. Yes.
And it's a
Thank you.
female crew, really, like 99% of who worked in the movie.
Yes, because we say like 95%, and sounds like it's a really big number for a movie, you know. There's a lot of women being hired and be able to work in a position that is different than was 10 years ago.
Okay,
Questions?
if there are no more questions, we let you go for the evening. You've been here very patient.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.